This is Jarrod Horak for the RunawayHorse.com, and welcome to my early preview of the 2021 Breeders' Cup Classic. If you're interested in my Breeders' Cup full cards from Del Mar, Friday, November 5th, Saturday, November 6th, you will be able to find those at the RunawayHorse.com on my sales page, Breeders' Cup Week. Right now, I am covering full cards for the month of October from Santa Anita Park, and then in the month of November, I will be covering the Del Mar Bing Crosby season, including those two Breeders' Cup cards that I mentioned. And if you're interested in my free selections from HorseRacingNation.com, my Best Bets blog, and at theRunawayHorse.com, and I post free selections on my California page, I will provide links in the description in this video for those free selections. Now let's take a look at the 2021 Breeders' Cup Classic. Right now it is October 13th. And the Breeders' Cup Classic is on November 5th, so we still have some time before that Breeders' Cup Classic, and there is a possible 13-horse field at this point. Art Collector for trainer Bill Mott won his last 3 starts. He's one of the likely pace players. Dr. Post for Todd Pletcher. Essential Quality for Brad Cox, leading 3-year-old. Express Train for John Sheriffs. Happy Saver for Todd Pletcher. Pennsylvania Derby winner Hot Rod Charlie. We have Idol for trainer Richard Baltus, Knicks Go for Brad Cox, Maxfield, Max Player in from New York, Medina Spirit for Bob Baffert, won the Awesome Again Stakes against Older last time out, Stilleto Boy, and then Tripoli, your Pacific Classic winner at this 1.25-mile distance over the Del Mar racetrack. So those are the 13 horses, with the pace scenario looking like Art Collector, Knicks Go, and Medina Spirit are your 3 most likely early runners. Now, Art Collector, very sharp right now, coming off a nice wire-to-wire win when he controlled the pace in the Woodward. Not sure that he's going to be able to control the pace in here because Knicks Go is very fast early, and he just likes to go. Knicks Go likes to go early, so you look for Knicks Go to be out there winging on the front end, or at least if he gets a good break, that's what they would probably like to do. And then Medina Spirit won the Kentucky Derby at 1.25 miles going wire to wire, and then he also did the same thing in his last 2 starts at shorter distances. The one was at Del Mar, the Shared Belief Stakes, and then the Awesome Again Stakes against Older Company at Santa Anita Park at 1.125 miles last time out. So those are your 3 most likely pace setters, and I think out of those 3, Knicks Go probably needs the lead. He's a bit more suspect at this 1.25 mile distance, and I think that they just need to go, and he's pretty quick early. Medina Spirit has shown the ability to come from a little bit off the pace in the past. Horses stalking the pace, Essential Quality, probably will take up a stalking position with Hot Rod Charlie, so those 2 should be behind the speed, working out good trips. In mid-pack, you'll probably see horses like Express Train for John Sheriffs, Happy Saver for Pletcher. Maxfield will probably be mid-pack towards the rear. Max Player is one that has shown improved tactical speed in his recent starts, and maybe they're going to try to do that again in here, but he's also shown the ability to come from far back. Stilleto Boy, and then Tripoli, he stalked the pace in the Pacific Classic. And then your late runners, Dr. Post and Idol, they should be at the back of the pack trying to get involved late. Now we'll just go through and I'll talk about each horse real quick, beginning with Art Collector. He's one that I've always liked. I liked him during his 3-year-old season, and then he tailed off towards the end of that 3-year-old season, and then they brought him back this year in his first start off of a layoff. He didn't run well, and then they moved him to the Bill Mott barn. Ever since then, it's been nothing but victories. He's 3 for 3 since moving to the Mott barn with victories and graded stakes wins in the Charlestown Classic, and then the Woodward going wire to wire last time out. As I said, he controlled the pace last time, probably not going to be able to control the pace in this spot. Dr. Post, I thought his Pacific Classic was okay, and he's one that I think could get involved late. In the Pacific Classic, it was a speed favoring track. The speed held because there wasn't much pace on. Tis a Magician, Tripoli, they were both up there. Dr. Post towards the back, and he just was not able to get involved. He tried to move up, and then he dropped back again, and then he was able to come again to finish 3rd. So I thought overall Dr. Post ran a decent race that day, and if he should get pace help in here, and he's one. I think if you're playing trifectas and superfectas, you might want to use a horse like Dr. Post because I think he can hit the board at probably a pretty good price. Essential Quality, your most likely winner, most likely in this race. he just does nothing but win. The only time he didn't win in his career was in the Kentucky Derby when he had a wide trip from an outer post. And the ground that he lost that day was probably the difference between him winning and losing. He just has a nose for the wire, and he's been in situations this year when didn't have a lot of pace, and he seemed to be up against it a little bit. He was able to get himself involved earlier, like he did in the Bluegrass Stakes, and then he did the same thing in the Travers Stakes when Midnight Bourbon tried to steal it, but Essential Quality was just classier, and he was able to stay close enough to that one and reel him in. This race has enough pace where they can place him anywhere they want. Express Train, sometimes he doesn't get involved early. He has some early trouble and he gets shuffled out of position. That's happened to him a couple times this year at least, and he didn't run his best races those days. Now, when he's able to get up there and get into a nice tactical rhythm, he runs better races. But this is a very tough spot for sure. Happy Saver seemed better last year for Pletcher. Not that he's run poorly this year at all, but he just hasn't really kicked it in like he did last year. He just seemed to be in better form, and I thought he would be better this year than last, but that really hasn't been the case so far. Hot Rod Charlie, he's always been good since they moved him to the main track, and that was later in his 2-year-old season, and since then, it seems like every time that he runs in these 2-turn races on the main track against Stakes Company, he's right there, and last time out, the Pennsylvania Derby was no exception. Excellent effort. So Hot Rod Charlie is right there with all the other top contenders in this race, and his versatility should serve him well. Idol, he's a Grade 1 winner at 1.25 miles. The only problem is that was earlier this year, and he's not sharp right now because he came back in the Awesome Again and he didn't run a quality race. And now he's facing all of these horses that are much sharper than he is. And I think he's up against it at this point. I have nothing against him. I liked him when he won earlier this year, but I just don't know that he can get back to that form in this spot. The Knicks go. I think they have to go early, and he's got the ability to either win this one or run last, one of those kind of horses, where if he can get out there and just set the pace all on his own and not go super fast early, but just set a nice, honest pace and get the field chasing him, and maybe some of the horses that or top contenders further back than normal, a horse like Knicks Go could probably wire the field. But again, he's one that I wouldn't be surprised if he went all the way, if he got loose. Wouldn't be surprised if he got caught in a duel and ended up nowhere either. Maxfield, I think he's one that's a solid top 3 threat, just based on the way that this race is going to, the race shape is going to play out. I think he's going to be rallying. He's very consistent, and he's got some class, and he's good enough on his best day to finish somewhere in the mix. Max Player, I'm concerned about him shipping outside of New York because his best races were in New York. He seems to elevate his game there, and then when he leaves New York, not quite as good. We're going to see if that continues to play out. As I said, he's shown better tactical speed recently, but he's also able to come from further back if the pace really does heat up. And then you have Medina Spirit, very sharp right now for Bob Baffert, and nice win in the Awesome Again. He's not going to be able to control the pace like he did that day. Kind of Art Collector and him in the same boat, because you have a horse like Knicks Go in here who really wants to set an honest pace. But Medina Spirit doesn't need the lead. He's just a hard trier. He just gets out there and he's just going to fight from start to finish. Stiletto Boy probably a bit up against it. Tripoli, I think he's probably up against it as well. He did win the Pacific Classic at 1.25 miles at Del Mar, but that was a great trip. Inside post, great inside tactical trip that day, and he was able to win that one. Didn't nearly run as well in the Awesome Again, and Tripoli is going to need to find that Pacific Classic form, and then this is a quality field that he's going to be facing, and I'm not sure he's ready to win a race like this. This is a much deeper field than he met in the Pacific Classic. So right now, is how I see this race. Essential Quality would be my top choice at this early stage. I just think he's the most likely winner. He's got all that versatility, and I think the 3-year-olds have the edge here. So Essential Quality would be one that I would pick on top right now. Hot Rod Charlie would be right there underneath him, and then Medina Spirit as well. So I think the 3-year-olds are all sharp and improving, and they look like the ones at this point. And then if I did like someone else to come in and hit the board for the exotics, I would say Dr. Post with that decent effort at Del Mar in the Pacific Classic. He ran okay in the Woodward as well, and I think he could sit back and make a late run. So that's a look at the Breeders' Cup Classic. And I'm going to be covering some other Breeders' Cup races as I look at some previews in the coming weeks. Until then, good luck at the races.